let's get started. What's up, everybody? Today I'd like to go through your B blues scale in the altissimo range of the tenor sax. So I don't have a lot of new stuff to show you, but the stuff that I do have to show you is it's pretty cool. It gives you an interesting way to approach going into the altissimo range of the tenor saxophone. So in a traditional way of playing the saxophone, you play up to your scale, you get your D, E, and then you get your F sharp using your high F sharp key. Now essentially we've pinned ourselves by using the palm of our hand on the E and using our 5 finger for the high F sharp key. Now you basically got yourself in a bit of a predicament. So it's difficult to go from that position to another position without having to stop the airflow. So you generally will either have to use another fingering or you have to stop the airflow in order to play the next note. And in this case, if you're going back down through the palm keys, it's not really that big of a problem. But going up, now we have a situation. So we have to find our way around that. So the first thing I want to do is show you the A that I would use. And this is an A that I showed you before, which is a vented G sharp fingering. If you remember from our previous lesson, when we talked about something being vented, the way I say it, it's a terminology I created. Vented means the first finger is up. So it's exactly like G sharp. Bang, the first finger is up. So this is a fingering. This is the one that I feel is the second most stable fingering for A. The first being a vented D, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then the other one is 3. Just the 3 key by itself in order to play A. I hate this fingering. I've talked about that before. I feel like it's weak, it's not very stable, and I only really play it when I am approaching it chromatically from the G sharp. Then it becomes real easy because you have that inherent scoop like we talked about from our G and F lesson or something like that. But at any rate, that's the way I would approach it. So 2, 3, and G sharp in order to play A, and then from there, in order to play B natural, I would just play the C key along with the E flat key. And if you remember before, you can play the B natural with just the E flat key. It's going to tend to be sharp. But in this case, I would play it with the C key and the E flat key, or from this position, the vented G sharp, you can go to your D. I talked about this before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You overblow it in order to play B natural. So here's that scale using the vented G sharp to the D finger. Piece of cake, you know. So the same scale using the vented G sharp to the C and E flat key in order to play B natural. You know, that's the one that I generally like when I'm playing it in a scalar fashion like that. When I'm just starting on that B natural, I generally like to use the D fingering, and then you can go from your D to Magic Altissimo fingering number 1, which is the front key, in order to play D. So you get something like this. So that's very effective and very easy. So another way of negotiating around that area of the scale, if you're playing it in that octave up to the altissimo B natural, at the end I'll play it to the double altissimo B natural, or the D that's above that, because that's about the top of my range. But for now, I want to show you a different way of negotiating around that area of the horn. So once we get to our palm E, if you remember back before when I showed you, one of the very first things that I showed you was an alternate fingering for F, which is exactly like G sharp, but you add Magic Altissimo fingering number 3, which is the high F sharp key. So G sharp, add high F sharp key, and you play your F natural, which sounds like your palm, or front F natural. And then in order to play F sharp, you go to your bis B flat while keeping down your high F sharp key. So you go from F to F sharp. So all I'm doing is G sharp with the high F sharp key to play F, and then going to your bis B flat, all the while keeping your high F sharp key down. So it feels like you're just going from A flat to B flat, the A flat to bis B flat. So it's very simple and very effective. So when you play that in the scale, you get this coming from your palm E into that alternate F natural into the alternate F sharp. from that F sharp, you go to the vented G sharp, 2, 3, and G sharp key in order to play A, and then you can pick whatever B natural that you want. I would probably use the C with the E flat key. Very simple stuff. So before I talked about my favorite F sharp fingering, which is a manifestation of Magic Altissimo fingering number 2, which is a split F, which is just like middle F with the 2 finger up. So you got 1, 3, and 4. So a manifestation of F sharp from that fingering is 1, 3, 4, and then you add your low C and you add your low B flat. Now that's a little bit tricky to get to if you're coming from your palm F, but it sets us up really nice to go to our A, which is the vented D fingering, which would be 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then from that A, I would just close the first finger in order to play B natural, which I just said is exactly like D. So I'll play that for you now, and you can compare the timbres and the differences from the other fingerings that I showed you before. So, all pretty straight ahead stuff. Here comes the moneymaker, ladies and gentlemen. The essence of playing altissimo is to ultimately exceed the capabilities of our octave key. So we do that by manipulating our embouchure and airspeed. Now the way I like to play altissimo, I like to try and put as much emphasis on airspeed as humanly possible, and then only use embouchure as like the last resort. So the way I design my setup, my mouthpiece choice, ligature choice, reed choice, facings, all of that is basically designed for it to be very physically easy to do. When the day is done and you've done all that and you're on the gig, it should be easy, and it should be easy for hours, because you can't play with all this embouchure pressure for very long periods of time. With that being said, we have to try and exceed the capability of our octave key. We do that airspeed and embouchure pressure here. So you hear a lot of guys do this all the time. They basically just overblow the tones and the lower register in order to get the high notes. You get something like that. Something like that. The moneymaker for this B natural scale. So we go from our B natural to D, but instead of playing D with the palm key, I'm going to use the flute F sharp fingering, which is 1, 2, 3, and 6. And you can even leave off the front key, but it's just easier to call it a flute F sharp. You get the same kind of note. And the pitch is a little different. It generally tends to be flat if you're not firm enough here. So in order to play D, you can hear how those timbres are different. So you overblow that middle E flat and you get your palm E natural sound, but with a much better timbre. So you can hear the difference in those timbres. And then in order to play F natural, then you can overblow E. So you got your middle E in order to play your what sounds like a palm F natural, and then from there you can go to your split F sharp, which is 1, 3, and 4 in order to play F sharp. So we've completely defeated pinning ourselves with the palm keys. We didn't have to go on the front, and now we're in an excellent position to get to our easy A natural, which is the vented D, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then from there, bang, you can just add the B natural key in order to play B natural, or you can go to the other B. So I'll play that for you now. So you can definitely hear the difference in the timbre, how it's so much more full, because we're overblowing those fundamentals that are really that give us such a full sound. So that's the moneymaker. That's the way that I like to play that scale. Unless, of course, I generally want that kind of thin, like palm sound that you can get from there. So with that being said, I'll show you the fingerings that I use for the double altissimo, for the altissimo B up to the double altissimo B natural. So with our B natural, you can either start with your C and E flat key in order to play B natural, or you can start with your D, overblow that in order to play B natural. You can start with either one. I basically use both Generally prefer to use the D if I'm just starting on that note. But from the D, in order to play B natural, you go to the front key, Magic Altissimo key number 1, in order to play D. In order to play E, in this case, I go to just the 4 key. If you remember back, it lowers this bis key, which is the actual fingering, but it's just much more practical to play it with just the 4 key. And from there, I go to, that's our E natural. And then for F, I go to split F, Magic Altissimo fingering number 2, just like F with the 2 finger up. And then from there, I go to F sharp. Now with this F sharp, like I said before in one of the previous lessons, I usually play that F sharp with the D key, 3, and the side E. But in this case, since I'm already on this split F fingering, I can leave the split F fingering down, and then I just add the palm D, and I can add the side E in order to play F sharp. So seems like a complicated fingering, but it's not. You're just adding to what's already there. So from there, you play your A. You can play A with just the C natural, which sets us up very nicely to go to our B natural by adding the palm E flat. Sorry, I'm looking like at the camera screen, and then I'm looking at the but at any rate, and then there's your B natural, your double high B natural, and then from there I would go to 2 and 3 in order to play D, which is at the top of my range. So sounds like this. Piece of cake. So thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. That was our B scale. We just have our E and then our A coming up next. So getting down to it, I'll keep making the videos, you keep watching them. So I hope all this stuff, you have a lot of options and ways of negotiating around the scale. So stay tuned. See ya.